I've lost the. Thank you. Good morning and welcome to the Democratic Services Committee on Thursday, the 21st of November. I just got some what they call like housekeeping rules to read out. The committee meeting is being conducted on a hybrid basis in accordance with the Local Government and Election Wales Act 2021, which operates alongside the Council Standing Orders. The Council Standing Orders and Code of Conduct will apply at all times, and members should conduct themselves accordingly. Please can those attending online switch off your cameras and mute your microphones when you're not speaking to ensure that there is no unnecessary background noise. And I also remind members to ensure that their chat functions is switched on and to use that facility to indicate to me when they wish to speak on a particular item. Please do not speak until I invite you to do so, and remember to unmute your microphones and switch on your camera. I don't know, I always tend to laugh at this. But, a recording version of this meeting will be uploaded for public viewing as soon as possible after the meeting, while translations of the proceedings can be provided upon request. The images and sound recordings may also be used for training purposes within the council. Thank you. Good morning and welcome, everybody. Good morning to the deputy leader who's with us today, and also to the presiding member who's here, your good selves, and of course our officers of the council. Do we have any apologies for absence, please?
Just Councillor Mudd, Chair.
Thank you. No other apologies. Declarations of interests. And because I'm not quite sure at this moment in time whether I should take the minutes of the last meeting. I could, I suppose. And then I have, we will open up another discussion. Minutes of the previous meeting on pages 3 to 6.
Yeah, I have a comment on that, if I may. I went onto the council website to find a transcript of the last meeting, and I couldn't find it anywhere. Not available, it came up.
Okay.
Sorry, Councillor Watkins, do you mean the video or the
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 transcript
transcript
came
of
up
the
with
video?
the transcript, not available. That was up till last week.
Not sure we would usually publish the transcripts, the video.
I couldn't find the video on Teams either.
That's another matter, and we'll look into that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Trevor. Any other matters arising from these minutes? Are you dealing with section B now? Yeah. I think we should take that ultimately, yeah, and then
for accuracy for the future,
yeah,
there's the omission of questions from the public, and we did have quite a considerable discussion about that last time.
Questions from. I have to go back and look at the video, but I don't recall that. And as regards removing that, that's what was discussed at the last meeting. Now, if the committee is going to decide something different today, that's absolutely fine, and that can be minuted accordingly. But if that was what was discussed and resolved at the last meeting, that needs to be
It wasn't resolved. Nothing was resolved at the last meeting.
It was resolved to bring it back to the later meeting.
If that's a resolve, yeah. But there was the actual questions from the public was certainly discussed for a long period of time during that meeting, irrespective of what the video says, because as we discussed last time, videos can be altered if you need to, and they can.
don't suggest there was
No, I agree.
my memory, my full memory of this is we did discuss at length and at length about the use of video recording, in other words, mobile phones.
Yeah.
used to record council meeting minutes. And I raised this with the presiding member, and I said, well, it's up to you, presiding member, you have a greater scope. And he said, well, I can't watch everything. Remember that conversation book? And so what we were recommending was there's no video recordings. We already have that in the standing orders. We have that you shouldn't record. And then what happens is people do, well, that's up to the presiding member, and I'm sure he would. Kate.
I think it was left that it was sort of suggested that it had been understood by officers that it was the leader's decision to support certain aspects of change. But we were unaware of that. We hadn't had those conversations with the leader. So in the meantime, we've actually had a conversation with the leader of that now. And that is one reason why those decisions weren't made at the last meeting, because we wanted to check back on what his understanding was.
There might have been a mention in discussion. I can't find it in my minutes, where there was a discussion about members of the public posing questions. However, it might have been brushed off, and because of we don't want members of the public recording us, because that can be altered. I think that's what Phil was coming to. Wasn't we altering the content? It's members of the public editing and altering the content of what's said, and that's the danger that we all face today. That we didn't want members of the public recording anything or having anything to do with the council meeting, except sat there observing.
Chair, that is referred to in the minutes, and I'm sorry, I thought what Councillor Boreham was referring to was the participation of the public in the meeting, which is something quite different to the use of mobile phones and social media, and I don't recall that being discussed. There was a discussion about the use of phones and social media in meetings, and that is referred to back to the penultimate bullet point of item B of the minutes.
No, Chair, the thing I was specific was members of the public being allowed to ask questions within a full council meeting, which is something we discussed for a great deal of the last meeting. The only thing I personally found on was copyright of council meeting. That's the only thing I personally had a lot of disquiet about. But then we could alter the videos from a council meeting by getting, shall we say, the leader to stand up and say something outrageous. And we didn't own the copyright. So then as a legal entity, we could go back to that person if necessary and get redress.
Because you were referring to on the ownership of copyright and the YouTube issue. That's where your comments are coming. Do you remember that?
I do to some extent. What I was going to suggest, Chair, is I think it's 10:20 now. We're in danger of getting bogged down on this item. What I would suggest is that with the agreement of the committee, we defer the approval of these minutes until the next meeting of this committee. And in the meantime, if members could send any observations on these minutes to Democratic Services, we will have a look at them. I think that's the best way of trying to resolve this.
I don't see where we're really getting by having a big debate about whether this thing was discussed or not. I mean, if I had a recollection that it was actually, but I mean, if members of the committee feel that it's an issue they'd like to discuss, well, let's just discuss it. And it seems to be the obvious way forward, because we didn't resolve anything at the last meeting. It was just a general discussion. So I'm not quite sure what we're going to gain by putting in the minutes that yes, there was a general discussion around questions of leader. If we feel it's important, well, let's talk about it now. Presumably it's quite relevant to the agenda.
Chair, if I may, certain things were resolved at the last meeting. It was resolved that this matter needs to be brought back for discussion at the subsequent meeting, which is this. And a number of things were also resolved about the draft constitution, which were not contentious, which are reflected in this report from today's meeting and the current draft of the standing orders and the new Brown Jacobson constitution. So some things were resolved at the last meeting. if part of that resolution was to defer it to a later meeting, there was a decision taken to discuss it later. That's a decision.
I'm looking to see if we can get a mover on these minutes, note the comments that's been made. I note them. I've just looked at the minutes again. And if we go back and sorry, if we look, the minutes, it's, the committee decided not to endorse changes that allows, the public to record within meetings, and felt it could lead to recordings appearing on social media that are taken out of context. The committee stated that members of the public who attend their council meeting should be advised to turn off their phones, and if they are caught using them, they should be asked to leave. Even though members feel there was a discussion around questions from the public to the council, it's not appeared here. Therefore, there's nothing before us with regard to questions to the public. So I'm quite happy to if don't get these through, get it out of the way, and move on then to the other business which we discussed earlier in the previous. I'm happy to move the minutes and to have the discussion we've just spoken about recorded as a discussion. Do we have a second?
I'm sorry, Chair, just to clarify,
Please do.
but recognise that the comments about questions from the public at full council meetings isn't recorded in the minutes.
You could have that recorded in here.
Mhm.
Okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, are we happy with that? Okay.
Second, Chair.
Yeah, I'll say.
There we are. Just a second. Okay, I'm going to move forward now. I'll put item 4 back, which is members training, further down the list, and bring forward the changes of the model constitution. So it's looking at page 5 here, but it's B and
Sorry, Chair, with what, with the members train, what we do with it, discussing it later on.
let's pushing it back because I'm mindful that the deputy leader has other engagements
All right,
that
okay.
he needs
okay,
to
no,
attend. I'm trying to be helpful.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations. Thank you very much. Okay. I'd like to give you an update then. In the pre-meet, the committee was mindful and still is mindful that the model constitution updates and the changes to the standing orders, leaders' questions, etc., will be put to a task and finish group as they feel that they are unable to fully embrace the changes that are being asked of them in one go, I think. And if I'm not wording this correctly, then please jump in, committee.
Yeah, Chair, can I just say, I think that we probably, after our conversation with the leader, who obviously is the one who has to fit, and the deputy, I haven't
Yes.
spoken to Deb about this, but obviously there may be occasions when she has to field this particular curveball for council, so we ought to talk to her as well. I don't think the issues are so directly with that particular one, because we understand the mind now of the leader on this subject, which we weren't aware of before. However, there's a lot of inconsistencies in the things that have been, in the track and change is always very useful, isn't it? But it can be quite confusing when you're looking at lines through things and you don't know whether that was sometimes done in error. For example, what was left in the reference to the head of paid service and the CEO. Why are we using 2 terms for that? That should be part of the constitution, so we recognise we can use 1 term for that. I mean, I actually thought they were one and the same. I was surprised it was left in that they were proposed 2 terms, because that's just adds to the confusion. It's just a bit messy.
So we're to say that the task and finish group are more minded drafting. is that?
No. No, that's not. Anybody else wish to come in? Yeah,
Any-
Trevor.
Yeah, I think it'd be better on the task and finish group because this is a large document that needs to go in and looked at with, I say, great thought to go behind it, because obviously it's going to affect all members and also possibly members of the city residents as well. So I think that we need to get it right and we need the time to do it. We're talking about 100, I think the officers mentioned 130 of the recommended one, but we're talking about 160 pages here. And we can't just do that in 2 hours. That's got to be looked in on detail to make sure everything is correct and appropriate for everybody concerned, whether it be residents, city, or whether it be councillors or anybody affected by this, or even officers in that.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes.
May I just give another example of what I was talking about? On page, it's 21, I don't think I've just skipped a page here. Page 20. There's the mouse which Simon kindly supplied me with, rolls in the other direction to the direction I'm used to. There is a reference there in that one about the final paragraph of amendments to existing constitution. Document Appendix 2 is a track change version of current standing orders showing the proposed amendments. The committee members are asked to review this and recommend the amendments to full council for adoption at the meeting at the 21st of January 2024. Now, I think that date has well gone by and it should have been 2025. But I mean, you know,
That's a typing error.
yeah, I understand it's a typo, but actually this is such a, you know, we all recognise the importance of this document. We shouldn't really be having to spend time looking at typos during the time that this committee meets.
Sure.
And Chair, just to make the point about the constitution as a whole, we're mindful that we're adopting this for the foreseeable future. And if we don't get something right, it'd be the devil's own job to try and change it in the future. We can't have the constitution coming up for debate every year. This is going to be something that will last, as I say, for the foreseeable future. And that could be 10, 15 years, whatever. It needs to be right.
If I may on that, Chair, I
Yeah.
mean, constitutions are designed to be living documents. Now, I completely agree, Councillor Laura, if we want to get it right in the first place. Absolutely. But to say that the constitution will remain exactly the same for the next 15 or 20 years, that's not how constitutions work. And the role of the monitoring officer in particular is to keep a constant eye on the constitution and look at things in it that need to be changed. And I think one key role of the monitoring officer is to make minor changes through council. And also to bring reports like this to Democratic Services Committee periodically to discuss things that need to change. I mean, they change, for example, in response to legislative changes. They may change in responses to changes in the administration. So to say it will remain the same for the next 15 years is not quite how constitutions work.
I think that what I'm reading from the committee, and I refer to our pre-meet, our discussions there. It's not this is not a criticism of the words that you've done. We're not happy with the process of the way it's being followed. So the committee's not happy with the process of having bits and pieces brought to them month after month after month. They're not happy with the process. Now, a criticism of the work that's been undertaken by officers is part of the process. And would we agree with that statement? Okay, so that's where the committee is coming from. We're not happy with the process.
So two things, Chair. I mean, I think that's abundantly clear. And I think at some stage, surely we should move on to discussing the composition and remit task and finish group. If details about that, just to just to clarify as well, this will mean, and the deputy leader may want to speak after me on this, Chair, but this will mean that the provisions regarding the changes to leaders' questions won't go forward, and it will mean that the changes which will enable outside bodies to attend meetings of full council will not go forward, conceivably for the foreseeable future. So that's just me. I'm not saying the committee should go one way or the other on that, but that will be the effect of this.
Stephen,
We, just to make sure I've got this straight, that we talking about the task and finish group looking, are we at the proposed new set of standing orders and looking at the changes to the existing standing orders? Is that what we're saying? Because to be on the task and because, well, if I can just finish what I wanted to say, that if we set up the task and finish group, just to be clear, I mean, my view is it should concentrate on the new draft, because that's going to be a big enough task as it is. I mean, you know, members pointed out already just how big the document is, and I think we need, you know, that's going to be the new constitution which the council is going to operate. That's the one that, you know, in my view, we, the task and finish group should be looking at and really concentrate on that, do a really good job on that. And I don't see any reason why the changes to the you know the current set of standing orders, we can't just do changes anyway, because as you know, the monitoring officers been told that it's a living document, it can be altered, and there seem to be general agreements on those anyway. That, in my view, the change to the questions to the leader would be a big improvement on what happened. If I also remember looking at the inviting outside bodies to come to council meetings, that my worry about that last time is I didn't know how it was going to work, but that's explained now in the papers how it's going to work, and I'm quite happy with that. And if I remember, it also suggested we're running that as a sort of pilot. Am I correct in that? And if you know, I don't think we're going to run it as a pilot. Well, let's run it as a pilot, see how it goes, and then we can change it. And let's get the task and finish. You know, those are sort of straightforward, practical changes I think we all agree on, that we can make now. And let's get the task and finish group to concentrate on the redraft of the new constitution. That's my view.
okay. Any other views?
Doesn't seem unreasonable because it costs.
Not reasonable at all. Any other views? Yes, I can't quite see that. Councillor Harvey, sorry, I need to get these glasses changed.
That's okay. My concern is with changing the rules, as Phil was saying, if we don't set something out permanently, we're going to be coming back every couple of months because somebody disagrees with something and say, oh, can we change this rule again? Can we change that rule again? That's my concern. And I agree with what Trevor had to say. This can't be sorted out in 2 hours in one meeting. This can have to be a few meetings to get this sorted out. But my concern is it's too important now to be changing these rules. I don't want to say willy-nilly, but I will. But in 6 months' time, is somebody else going to come forward and say, oh, I don't like that rule, let's get it changed again. So we got to go through this process over and over and over. That's just what I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Harvey. Look, we have to make progress on this. So the consensus, I don't know. I'm gonna now try and yes.
I propose that we set up a task and finish group to look at item 5 on the agenda today, which is the implementation of the model constitution, revision of changing standing orders for meetings at full council, and revision to contract standing orders.
On that, the contract standing orders cannot be part of the task and finish group. Those are changes to a document which are to reflect changes in legislation, and Mr. Lee will address the committee on that in due
Okay,
course.
omit the contract standing orders. Happy with that. if that's the case.
Okay, okay. Do we have a session that's about?
Yeah, I'll second that.
Okay,
Yeah, can I just raise one question?
please, yeah.
The task and finish group, is it only going to be this committee that's going to be looking at, or are there going to be other people involved in that task and finish?
Yeah, if I might on that one. When we talked about this last month, and we, at the last meeting, and we asked it to go back and further work, we advised that we'd really like Councillor Cochrane to be involved in this, because as the presiding officer, he could bring neutrality to
Yeah.
us and best advice. We were such invited Councillor Cochrane to take part in the redrafting of last month's
I've had it sent to me, and there's lots of things I totally agree with it. And I think without being pedantic on it, there are things like what you raised, like it keeps mentioning about the mayor changing the meetings. Now I know that's a real sort of thing, but it's,
Yeah,
the
exactly.
mayor doesn't change no chair meeting. It's only a small issues, but
But those
Okay,
are the things
if
that-
there were to be a task and finish group, then you can invite other members, such as the presiding member, onto that, if that's what you wish. Yes.
I want just suggesting myself.
No, but we
People who might want to.
that you could be a travel first then Kate.
In regards to the task and finish group, it would have to come, it would have to be from this committee. It would then could invite other officers and members to give advice on what to do on that task and finish group. And then it comes back to the full
Yes.
Democratic Services Committee for ratification, and then goes to full council.
Are we now saying there's two trails of thought going along here? And for progress, I'm thinking changes to the constitution with regards to questions to the leader. Are we taking that as that's something we could agree here today? Or right? Because I think we all agree that's progress and a change we could agree on. And also I'll be saying that changes to the way that outside bodies appear before the council, such as I guess not always the police, and if it's
No,
not the
always
police,
the police, always the police.
Can I just clarify that?
yeah,
Chair?
please.
So under this revised draft, when police will continue to be invited to every meeting, in addition to that, there will be scope for other bodies to be invited in addition to that to all full council meetings, except for the budget meeting and the AGM. And there are a few other things around that which are set out in the report. The other thing I was going to say, Chair, is you've got a motion from Councillor Watkins, so I don't know if you want to deal with that before you move on to.
Well, I'm just trying to scope out exactly because we could end up with two motions coming very soon. Because I've different opinions. I'm trying to establish what we have, Kate.
Yes, I agree with Trevor's motion, but I would like to just clarify the reasons for that. The alternative, it strikes me that this needs to be looked at in great detail. Now, are we proposing that, because the other alternative is it just keeps on coming back in this form and we're presented with papers like this at every meeting for what will be months and months till we get through it all. Because I think there's the weight of this committee making decisions on the whole document of however many pages, when there is this level of detail to be looked at, to cut out all the bits of anomaly which are still written in it. This is why I support the formation of the subgroup to take to speed things along for this committee.
So are we now referring to, as a committee, are we deferring to the subcommittee any proposed changes to the constitution with regards to, for example, questions to the leader? Because you can't have
I
me,
thought you were proposing that we make a decision on that one today.
we can
Yeah.
do that. I'm trying to separate that out
Yeah.
from the rest of it. Like,
Yeah, I think,
we're trying to separate out, we're trying to assist as much as we can. Maybe we could bring the leader in after me. It's road you.
Well.
You are the leader of the moment.
I am the interim leader. The leader actually sent his apologies.
Yeah.
The WLGA have demanded his attention and he's at a full day's meeting.
So we're grateful to have you.
Thank you very much. I've clearly sat down with the leader. I've clearly gone through the papers and heard your views and your concerns. I wholly support the proposal in regard to a written question being presented to the leader clearly within 5 days to ensure that an effective response, an educated response is actually received, which is far better. It's far better for democracy. It's far more informative. Yes, a supplementary question, an appropriate supplementary question can then be asked following that. And I completely support that. I also support the premise that whoever is the deputy leader, if they're standing in for a leader, is afforded the same opportunity to ask those questions. Clearly, there may be times that a deputy leader may not be, but with a written question, she or he will have the appropriate answer, may not have the effective answer in regards to a supplementary, but there will always be the opportunity to provide a written response because that's the honest way to go. I also support the opportunity to have an external body on invitation to attend the meeting following the process that's been laid out in the document, because for us that enables all of us as councillors to probe, to question, to challenge or to praise an external body with regards to work that they're undertaking on behalf of our residents. And I believe that actually promotes and supports the democratic process that we all work towards in regards to our residents and what we do with them, and it shows that we're actually doing our work effectively.
Can I ask you, Deputy Leader, about the extension of the time from 15 minutes to 20 minutes?
I completely support that because a question may not take it may, as we've seen with Dimitri, the leader recently, his questions have been quite concise, and he's responded very concisely, and it's down to a leader and how they choose to answer that question. An extension of 20 minutes with a written response, I completely support. I think it makes complete sense.
Is this the appropriate time to then consider this question of, would you want to give a response to this now? The question of questions coming from members of the public, just to get this one out of the way. Because I do know, although it wasn't referred to in the minutes, I did make it quite clear my views on this, that it's our responsibility. We were elected by the residents in our area to perform that task of asking the questions in council. I don't feel it appropriate then to take questions from members of the public who would not have the information or the opportunities that we do. They would not be aware of the background of things being asked or issues raised, and they are far more likely to be swayed by populism. And hopefully we as elected members with experience of our wards would be, and our cities I should say.
The leader and I clearly are fully aware of your concerns and views, and the leader and I's views are having discussed that with accept the concerns that you had. We appreciated Councillor Cox very kindly provided us some information to look at as to how other local authorities actually support the process of enabling the public to ask questions, whether it would be in the council or whether it would be outside the council, but in a written format, where the leader was challenged within the public domain. And they're certainly interesting. And the leader and I haven't done has actually sat down and discussed that. We both agree they're very interesting. I don't think this is the time for me to come back with recommendations because I haven't actually come to
Right, that's fine. Thank you very much. I asked you before
Yes.
for
Thank you.
where we were time-wise. That was
Thank you for clarifying that. So, we're rapidly coming to a decision now of what we want, I guess. So I think if we take this bit by bit, and if we vote first off on the agreed amendments to the Constitution that allow questions to the leader as outlined in the report, Yes,
Just have a quick question first. It states that the question won't be read out by members. It needs to be read out because my concern is that people watching the film won't know what the question is and won't know what the leader's answer is. So it needs to be read out.
Absolutely.
so who's going to read it out?
Questioner.
Just to say on that,
Question.
just to clarify on that, because I did draft it that way. I've had conversations elsewhere about this, and the consensus seems to be that the question should be read out. So if that's what the feeling of the committee is, that will be changed in the version that goes to the full council.
Okay. Yeah, okay, so can we just vote on that one, because I want us to be clear.
So,
Yeah, carry on.
Will there be a timescale on the length of the question to be read out? Because we have in previous councils seen people showboating, if you like, and their speech leading up to the question has been far longer than the question ever was.
No, I think we're all gonna be concise and precise on this to get a question. Yeah.
Yeah, well, the draft explicitly says that they must read out the question and do
Yeah.
nothing more or nothing less than that. So they need to stick, and the expectation is that the presiding member would inform that. With regard to the oral supplementary question, which they're entitled to ask, that's capped at 2 minutes.
So remember,
Yeah, going back to what the deputy leader has said, and I think this is part of, let's be clear about this. We have in the past had waffle for a long time. And I think that hasn't really got to where the people need to understand what has gone on. So I think by knowing and giving that time scale, at least we're having the correct decision or a correct response to that question. And I think that's what we're all about, really. It's not about playing games here. It's about you having a question you're not sure of, and they're never going to know everything. They're not. Let's be perfectly honest about that. That time scale gives officers time scale. You could have a question like saying to the leader, why we've got 400 houses empty in Newport? Well, he wouldn't know that. But at least now you've got a time scale there to get a correct answer, which all of us want, isn't it?
so I'm quite happy move this from the chair. Do we have a seconder for those amendments?
Sorry, Chair, can I just be abundantly clear? So there's one item to consider, which is the revised standing orders from the modern constitution, which I think the consensus of the committee is to put that back to a task and finish group. And then there are the changes to the current standing orders, which the suggestion seems to be that we put that forward to full council in January and recommend that they adopt it. Just to be super clear on that, Chair.
And to be super clear on it, what they were asking for and what they were indicating is they're quite happy to support questions to the leader. That is super clear. Anything else isn't at this stage, and you are right to agree to it.
So not the involvement of outside bodies.
Well, we're going to take that next. So we're trying to break it down. That might come to another discussion. Hey,
Just to say what we were also very clear about today, it would be so much more helpful if we could have printed documents for something of this length and complexity, because it's really difficult to remember even which appendix we're referring to here. So maybe we're in error that we should request those or spend several hours with our overheating printer and produce them ourselves.
I think it's the I endorse this as well. I know we're trying to move away, and indeed we are moving away.
Yeah.
If I sat here with papers in front of me, I can assure you that my paper usage has gone down by, God knows, if I say 95%, I'm absolutely, we've all gone down. But on such important things like this, it's easier to work off paper than it is to work off laptop. That's what the members are saying, and I hope the officers are listening to that, and I'm sure they are. Thank you. Stephen.
But yeah,
I'm getting a little confused now about this. What we're actually going to vote on.
Okay.
That I assume we agree about questions the leader and agreed about.
We're just gonna break it down to, we're just gonna do questions to the leader, get that passed.
Yeah.
Quest outside bodies, get that passed.
Could I just suggest, Chair, I would find it helpful if the legal officer could remind us if, what other amendments were being proposed to the existing. Because those were the two, weren't they? But I think there was as well, I think,
To the, not to the existing standing orders. And this is why there remain inconsistencies in that document, because the draft that I've prepared only extends to inserting those two provisions. There are all sorts of other inconsistencies in this document. I haven't set out to rewrite it. Instead, I've rewritten it off the Brown Jacobs document, and we've been expressed on what to do with that. But the only two changes in this revised draft of the existing standing orders is the insertion of clause 3A to permit the attendance of external bodies, and the changes to the section on questions from members to the leader, cabinet members, and to chairs of committees.
Can you give us sorry, can you give us a page number then for what you're referring to specifically, just so that we know down to that.
well, the legal officer doing that. One of the concerns about having outside bodies was the length of time they were going to take, so there have to be time constraints on the length of the presentation they can make. And of course, then the questions that members could be allowed to ask him for, because one of our sister committees, if you recall, had met previously with Newport Live, and the presentation was inordinate, which caused the questions to be even longer.
I get what you're saying. Deputy Leader, maybe you can answer this one. Sorry. No, that's okay. My understanding is that questions to outside bodies will follow along the same format as questions to the police, which is a short introduction. You say no.
Not exactly, Chair.
Okay, do you want to explain?
There's a little bit more of a rigidity to the procedure around in terms of what is being proposed with regard to questions for outside bodies. So that body would have a half-hour time slot in front of the full council. They would have 10 minutes to give a presentation or speak to council about what they want to speak about. There would then be, after that, 20-minute slot for members to ask questions. Those questions would need to be submitted 5 clear days in advance. They must be about strategic issues which affect the whole community or sections of the community. They're not an opportunity to ask about individual cases or casework.
Okay.
So there are some differences.
Just a quick one on that. Can the members submit questions 5 days in advance when they have that presentation?
This is
Well,
yeah, this is a different.
they can't do that. No, it's right.
They can't, yeah.
You can, no. For example, and there's a housing association, and let's say that we're not happy with the work that, the lack of work that they're doing on the land, and I would be able to submit that. What the council is saying is during their presentation, if they start speaking about, I don't know, anything at all that we find objectionable, we're not going to be able to answer questions on it. That's unacceptable.
I understand that, Chair. I mean, the observation I would make is, do the questions to Glen Police always relate to what the police have said in their presentation, or do they relate to matters of wider concern that all the members want to raise?
I think it's a bit of a mixed bag, that one. I certainly have read the contact with the police. However, if you was to mention something like we're going to go into, I don't know, we've been involved in a major shakedown on the A48 in Lansdale, I'd be up and I'd say, oh, hang on, you haven't contacted me. So it really depends on what comes out from the other side.
Chair, can I suggest, you know, that we just agree what we can agree and defer the rest. Because,
Okay,
what the legal officer has just told us, is, well, it's not a chat. It's certainly not the way we were understanding it, because, the presiding officer, rightly reprimanded me at the last council meeting for taking an opportunity to slip a question in because nobody else was speaking. And he said, well, you'll have to be better next time, or something along those lines, didn't you? Which I was perfectly happy to accept. If we,
I can't believe anybody's recommending.
he did, I know. But if we went down this line, 10 minutes presentation from whatever, and then having to put questions in advance, it really is.
Right.
Really
It's not going to be constructive.
Okay, so listen, let's put that part of it to the task and finish group along with this.
Yep.
And we'll agree the leaders' questions to go in January. That's it. Yeah, we happy with that? Yeah, otherwise I'm gonna make progress today. Okay, so we're now clear that the proposal for us is to actively, thank you. The changes to the constitution with regard to questions to the leader and the way it's going to be implemented are accepted. All in favour?
Excuse me, Chair.
Yes. Yes.
I have had my hand up. Just for clarification, we're changing the time frame for questions to the leader from 15 to 20 minutes. Is that still the same as with no supplementaries?
No, with supplementaries, isn't it? With supplementaries,
With supplementaries.
yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, and apologies for not seeing your hand.
That's okay.
That's it. Thank you, thank you.
Can I,
Yes,
before we move, actually, I do apologise, going back to the attendance outside bodies, I think the principle you've all agreed with the need to have outside bodies attending. The concern you've got is about questions that must be submitted in advance, but about strategic matters only. Would you accept it if we actually change that to a choice of submission in advance, so those questions could be gone through, and then an allowance for supplementary questions, oral questions, which the presiding officer would judge whether they were appropriate?
Yeah.
You wouldn't see that as acceptable.
You're asking us to make the decision straight away. What we're gonna do now is we're gonna stop this now. And we're going to vote on what's before us. All in favour of questions to the leader only. First off. Yeah, questions leader. I think we are.
Not only questions, good.
Yeah. That part of the constitution, and we all understand where we're coming from.
Yes.
And we are deferring back to the task and finish group, the outside bodies for clarification on how we see it being worked. Yep, thank you.
Yes.
And we're all in agreement with that. Yeah, we're all there with that. Okay. So that part of it now is concluded. We can now move on to,
In terms of the task and finish group, then, Chair,
we're going to set that up after this meeting with all your helps. And looking at the ad and the end, oh, God.
so in terms of the broad,
Yeah.
the broad kind of setup of the task and finish group, it's going, how many people are you looking to have?
We did an initial volunteer thing, and I've got 1, 2, 3, 5, 6 people. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and we agreed on the political representation on that group.
The weighted according to within reason.
Yeah, within reason.
Okay. And we will be inviting the presiding member. Give advice.
And I would propose, Chair, that the chair of that task and finish group is elected by the group when it meets.
Yes.
Would it be a sensible suggestion, Chair, if officers prepare a set of draft
think we've got it here, haven't we? This is what we're going to be gathering.
Terms of reference to the task and finish group for consideration on the next meeting of Democratic Services Committee.
But we hope to be meeting before the next meeting of the Democratic Services, because we want to get this done as soon as we can. I would see us, I hope, see the first meeting before Christmas of this meeting, so we can move it along as fast as we can. Now, whether I'm being ambitious or not, I don't know.
I'm just thinking about how you're going to resolve the terms of reference, Chair, that's all.
We were going to look at that after this meeting. I don't know if we can, if you want us to do it now, we can try and do that.
I mean, what you could do is you could delegate it to the chair to agree suitable terms of reference.
And you would set it up then, excuse me, interrupting then.
Yeah,
You send it out to all members then for their views.
Okay, okay then.
So if officers, perhaps with just a suggestion to you, Chair. If officers suggest some terms of reference, send them to you and then you can distribute it.
And we can get it distributed. If I agree with them or disagree, we can distribute it for members' comments. Yeah. Be happy with that. I'm actually not going to agree it without the backing of the committee.
Well, I'll take
Yeah,
it.
because that's that.
Yeah, okay, all right, so do that. Go through that, start the meeting of the task and finish group and formally approve the terms of reference to the next meeting. So the task and finish meetings can still start.
Yeah.
But firma can finalise the remit of the next
Okay.
service meeting. Does that work?
Yeah, no, I mean, we don't want anything that's going to delay us. I think that's what we're aiming to do.
No, I just think with the chair with task and finish groups, you've got to have a bit of clarity over what their remit
We
is,
have
what
to.
they're there to do. Don't know if we're going to know where they stand, but yes, we can do that, Chair, certainly.
We operate on clarity every day. Very so. Right now, I actually don't know where I am. We need to agree this, or have we agreed it? Have we
Can I suggest on that, Chair, if Councillor Davis can be released, if there's nothing else on the
Absolutely.
standing orders, if you
I didn't know you were being detained, but you know, and on the words of your legal officer.
Thank you so much for the invitation to attend today. I hope you come to some satisfactory conclusions.
Well, we certainly are.
Thank you for coming along.
Yeah, thank you.
Chair, you don't need me now, do you?
No, we can.
I don't know to care.
Oh, can you go on? Yes.
You're fine.
We'll see you when we set up the task and finish room. Thank you.
Chair, the second part of this report under item 5 deals with provisions to do the draft contract standing orders. This is set out in appendix 3 of the report. And these are changed to be made to reflect changes in legislation. I have with me, waiting patiently in the background on Teams, Richard Leake, who's the Council's Procurement and Payments Manager, and he's kindly agreed to come along to address the committee on the purpose of this. With your agreement, Chair.
Right. Good morning, Richard.
Sorry, Chair.
Sorry.
Could the officers of mass emergency try and find this video that referred to the last meeting? Because people have searched on YouTube and unable to find it. And when they find it, can they send us out a link to it, please?
Yeah. Yes. Thank you. Richard, good morning.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, everybody. Thanks, Mike, for the introduction. As Mike said, I'm Richard Leake. I'm the Procurement and Payments Manager within the Council. And today I just wanted to give you an overview of the purpose of the contract standing orders, the revisions we're proposing, and the reasons why. So the Council's contract standing orders, or CSOs as they're known, sit within the Council's financial regulations and are essentially the rules that are put in place to govern how the Council tender and procure goods, works and services. So they're the rule book by which we operate, establishing contracts with third-party suppliers and organisations. The current CSOs have been in place since February 2020 and were initially due for review last year. However, this review was postponed slightly due to the change in landscape of public sector procurement post the United Kingdom's exit from the European Union. So UK government and the devolved governments, including Wales, took the opportunity to move away from EU procurement rules and put in place new legislation around public sector procurement in the UK. The new acts and regulations in the main are now formed, and the new Main Procurement Act 2023 is due to go live now in February 2025, so about sort of three months' time, having been postponed a number of times previously. So our CSOs have been fully reviewed and revised to encompass all the necessary elements of the new Procurement Act, as well as the requirements in Wales to comply with the new Social Partnership and Public Procurement Act 2023. We've also taken the opportunity to strengthen our CSOs in respect of our carbon reduction ambitions against the Council's Climate Action Plan, as well as expanding the requirements for procurement to deliver additional social value through our contracts. The draft contract standing orders in the form you have in front of you have been developed between myself and Mike as head of law and standards, but I should point out that they have not yet been reviewed by the head of finance due to the tight timelines, although we do not anticipate any fundamental changes to the current draft. I think that covers off the main points I wanted to bring to your attention, but obviously happy to try and answer any questions you may have if there are any.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Yeah.
Good morning, thank you. Social value through contracts. It's something that's been tried over the years, and things like local labour to be employed on construction projects and all the rest of it. And every time it's been tried in bodies that I've been involved with, it's always been deemed to be anti-competitive and restrictive. Have we looked at those issues? Because I'd ideally love to see them implemented.
So was that a question around local labour? Sorry, councillors. Yeah. So in terms of the majority of capital construction projects the council undertake, they're delivered by our JV partner Newport Norse. They use the frameworks, the public sector frameworks, which are administered by Cardiff Council. So we use the SUSCAPS framework for our capital school builds, etc. We use the South East Wales Highways frameworks for works on our highway network, etc. All of those framework agreements have got social value considerations built in to them and expectations on using or rather encouraging apprenticeships. We take into account where the labour is coming from, and the new social value framework in Wales, the social value TOMS as it's known, themes, opportunity and measures. We use that framework to actually review tenderers' submissions in terms of local labour, offering apprenticeships, training opportunities, placements, etc. So that additional social value does feature in a lot of the frameworks that we use in Newport and used by Newport Norse. And I would say that is only getting better as time progresses. We recently put a report through to Cabinet on social value delivery over the last 6 months through our contracting and procurement. And that shows, significant progress in what the council are delivering against social value and community benefits. So it's certainly a consideration. The new Social Partnership and Public Procurement Act requires us to go a step further in that and actually sort of look at those opportunities, to increase social value in our contracts in Wales. So that is being strengthened all the time, councillor.
Thank you very much. Excellent.
So, good morning, Mr. Lee. Thank you for coming along today. You mentioned that this is a national document, or it's being taken forward by UK government with the agreement of the devolved governments. Is there a sort of, and then it was mentioned that this is Newport's in a sense, so it's been amended by yourself and by the chief legal officer. So can you give us examples of where it's specifically Newport based now, and does there exist a sort of a standard copper plated generic version of this?
Yeah, so the contract standing orders are obviously written under our constitution, under the financial regulation. So all local authorities have a set of contract standing orders or contract procedure rules. So they govern how we as Newport City Council, in this case, procure and form contracts of any value. The overarching legislative framework, so the new Procurement Act 2023, that governs essentially in the main how above threshold procurements are undertaken. So procurements above certain threshold values, so that those requirements are built into Newport's contract standing orders. But our CSOs also capture what we want to do as Newport City Council to try and support the local economy, local growth, etc. So a number of our lower value procurement processes actually state in the contract standing orders that we should give consideration to local suppliers. So where we're going out for sort of low value quotations, low value tenders, etc., CSOs actually state that we should be looking to support local suppliers wherever possible. So, for example, if we're going out to three quotes for something costing, I don't know, 40 or 50,000 pound or whatever, we don't just pick companies over the bridge, from the Midlands or whatever. We actually do a bit of research. We have a look what companies exist in Newport or the wider Cardiff capital region, for example, and we make sure they're invited to bid. So our CSOs are in many ways structured around supporting the local economy, yes.
Thank you.
Councillor Watkins.
Thank you. Good morning, Chair.
Hello.
Item 332.1, it says disposal of assets. Does that include property or just services?
No, property sits outside of the contract standing orders, is my understanding in terms of the disposal of those assets, yes.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Then any other questions? Observations? Okay, we're moving this, aren't we? We're moving or noting.
That's a recommendation that it be adopted by full council in January if possible.
The only provision I've got is you stated at the beginning that there's been finance has not had an opportunity to comment on this yet, even though it's urgent by the looks of it. Haven't had an opportunity to comment on this yet. If we, as a committee, recommend this today for adoption at full council, it would have to be subject to no adverse comments from finance.
No changes.
Exactly. So we can't really give you the green flag when I would say the most important element of this is comments from the finance. So best we chase the finance up for their final comments. And let us know if they're adverse.
Yeah, I mean, just to say on that, I mean, there are one or two things that may change on a stylistic level. I mean, the document having had a proofread, it's not going to change substantively. There might be a bit of minor rearrangement, but there won't be any change to the substantive provision. And as you say, Chair, if there are any adverse comments from the head of finance, which I think is unlikely, given that this is largely led by Richard.
Yeah.
Yeah, if there are any adverse comments, we'll report back to the committee.
Report back, Trevor.
I got no problem with that, but if there are any changes at all, members of the Democratic Services Committee need to be informed prior to going to council.
Okay.
Any change?
Okay, so
Well,
is there any minor changes like just,
the constitution allows the monitoring officer to make minor changes and report it to full council. So I can do that. There probably will be minor changes. Richard and I had a discussion yesterday, and there are, you know, for example, we need to change the paragraph numbering on 6.2.1. These need to be renumbered so that process 1 goes into the preamble, and then processes 2, 3, 4, and 5.
Can we just, just save the paragraph numbering, please? Can we ask you whether you're actually suggesting that we note this, or whether we recommend it? Because I think if we recommend it, it is appropriate to know our small changes, but you can miss out paragraph renumbering.
Yeah. What we're not going to do is make wholesale changes to it and present something completely different to full council. What I am saying is that there might be some minor changes where paragraphs need renumbering, things need rearranging, and bits and pieces need adding in as a response to comment. Now, I did consider whether to bring this item to this committee, because as the monitoring officer, what I could have done was said this is necessary to reflect legislative changes, reported it to full council, and asked full council to note it. What I agreed with the chair, and I think is very sensible, is that this committee is brought up to speed with the rationale for these changes and what we're doing.
There's some background noise coming through. Is it really all set off? Just, I think they're meditating.
Lot of mea culpa about the smell, isn't it?
Sorry to interrupt you, Mike.
I think I'd about finished, Chair, to be honest. I mean, if the will of this committee that any change to this document whatsoever before it goes to full council.
Not any changes. I mean, if there's significant change, it's going to alter the outcome of or change the direction of the contract, then yes, we want to know. If there's any adverse comments from the finance officer, absolutely we want to know. So we approve it subject to no adverse alterations or comments from the finance officer. Are we, Trevor? Are you want to have
The word adverse concerns me, Chair.
okay?
Adverse comment that you make.
Yeah.
Or consider adverse. What I consider adverse could be totally different to somebody else. This is why I say that any change, small, to make any difference, should come back. Because that comment might change something which you are against. Or
Can you just?
What I would say about that, Chair, is yes, we can do that. I'll bring a report back to the next meeting of this committee. We'll go forward for adoption by full council in February, and until then, we'll have a set of contract standing orders which don't reflect current legislation. That's the choice the committee's been asked to make.
Well, no. I think unfortunately, the committee has been asked to make has been asked for its approval on a document that has no comment from the finance officer and is subject to amendments or slight amendments. That's where the problem is. So the committee needs to have the document fully up to speed and including the comments from the finance officer. Then the committee will be able to make that final decision. Okay. So if there's any holdups, it's not from this committee.
but this should have gone to finance before it come to us.
Not this committee that's holding up. This committee is we seem to be struggling this morning, but I don't know. If anybody else could,
Okay, I mean, can we, I thought, sorry, we made progress there, but we approve it subject to the
Subject to,
adverse comment from elsewhere. from finance. I mean, first place, this isn't the final word on the document anyway. It's going to full council, so presumably if there is any issue with it, that can be sorted out. That would be sorted out before the full council meeting. Or if any of us still have a real issue about it, we will be able to raise it to the full council. I mean, and rather than have a debate about what's not adverse and what's not adverse, could we? Could I suggest we do something like ask you, Chair, to be briefed on any alterations that take place between now and the full council meeting? And if you, Chair, feel that they really are very, very serious and we all need to go up as a committee, then we can be informed of that.
I'm happy with that.
I'm content to do that. I mean, I did start to explain what the changes are likely to be,
Yes,
and I
you
can
did.
go into that in some more detail if you wish, Chair.
Okay. We'll take this away. So are we happy then, subject to that direction?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
please.
because Councillor Watkins' experience on this stuff. Is he happy?
Yeah.
And if
I
he's
have concerns
from it, then I've got concerns.
that other
Okay.
people could make a decision which we consider adverse.
Okay, okay. I think it comes down to. I'm trying to pick my, I can't pick my words because, you know. But I trust, I trust the head of Northern Standards to make the correct decisions in consultation with myself. I'm happy to share as soon as I have that, and I'm happy, and I would share that with the rest of the committee, so they can be happy. Because unless you're happy, as I said earlier, there's no point in me being happy, because this is a democracy here and not a dictatorship. So we need to be collectively signing off on it. So I'll meet with the head of Northern Standards. We also, if I believe it's ready to be signed off, it'll be sent to you for your approval, then we can, as a committee, endorse it. Yes.
It was my understanding when I first read this through that just as the report from the Independent Remuneration Panel, or whatever they call them, you know, was to be noted.
Yes.
And certainly, you know, it's why I asked the question, really, was this sort of a standard document through the whole of UK, or then Mr. Leake informed us it's actually written to a sort of Newport spec. You know, so I think the question really is, I think it would certainly be safest if these, any changes, anything other than we've been presented with is given as information to the chair. Because I thought it was for a report to be noted rather than a report to be approved.
And what?
Because we take legal responsibility for this, obviously, or a degree of, I don't think anyone's going to send us to prison over it, but it's clearly down to this committee. We have the authority to make a recommendation to full council, and if we got it wrong, we need to be answerable for that.
Absolutely, I think we should be answerable for it.
Yes.
And this is why the comment, the no comment from the finance officer has been noted and asked for before we rubber stamp it off, I guess. And but we contend with that now.
I'm trying to.
No,
I'm
it's
just
you and I
trying to
will
think
meet.
where we're up to on this. So
You and I will meet.
it will be reviewed by the head of finance.
Yes.
There will be some
I'm-
minor changes. I'm happy to go through those
Yeah.
now if that would make members
No,
comfortable.
we're fine. We'll do it now.
I don't see the point in doing it. now,
No,
Chair.
there is no
Finance,
No,
You could have a.
we can have a discussion, Mike.
And then find out finance when other changes.
Okay.
I think it's extremely unlikely that the head of finance is going to make wholesale changes to this.
Yeah, but it's that, but it's that we need to make sure that it doesn't come in with the curveball against us, and that's what we want to do. been here before sometimes.
So if I refer any adverse comments of the head of finance to the chair, have a discussion with the chair.
Any comments against the recommend anything, because we don't want to, as my colleague said, what's adverse to you and me may be completely different to the rest of the committee. So what I want to do is have them sit down with him, let's go through it, let's agree it, then in principle, let's send it to the committee and have them straight away come back and say yay or nay. And once you get that,
As a recommendation.
as a recommendation,
Subject to that process.
yeah, I think so. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Ian, for that. Thank you for your help and assistance.
Thank you, Richard.
Richard, I don't like calling you Ian.
No problem. Thanks, Chair. Thanks, councillors.
Right, okay, members, so we're gonna go back now, I think, to item 4, members training. Yeah,
Thanks, Chair. So this is an information only report for the committee today. I don't know if you cast your mind cast your mind back to pre-May 2022 local elections. The committee played an integral role in setting out what the curriculum for training would be for that first key year, and subsequently we brought regular reports back to committee on the training that's been carried out, what the attendance rates have looked like, and a bit of forward looking at what would be planned for the next sessions in the future. This report also contains an update on another recommendation that came from the committee previously, in that we send out a survey to elected members to try and gather some feedback and information on the training that had already been conducted, and any reruns, any sessions that they would like to be repeated, any new sessions on topics members were looking for, and also any other information about how they run and set up in general. So that is attached as an appendix to the report at the bottom. We didn't have a very high response rate to the survey, but we did get some useful feedback on the important sessions that members would like to be run again. I think we've almost ticked all of those off at this stage, so we have done a little bit of a review to go back over some of the sessions, particularly those carried out, almost 3 years ago now, back in 2022. And I know members are obviously, you've got a new calendar now, the next sessions that we've got until I think we're looking at April next year. So I think we've got the WLGA coming in to talk to us about their corporate strategy next week. We've got revised, we've had to move one of them, which was around the discretionary assistance fund, signposted for residents around support throughout the winter period. The other thing that I would like to just raise with the committee, perhaps suggest that we bring a report back to the next meeting, is about what is considered as mandatory training. So currently we've got a code of conduct, which is something set out by the Public Service Ombudsman for Wales, and that is part of the standards committee remit to make sure that we're adhering to 100% attendance with that. However, in recent times, some of you working on other committees, you might be aware of, we do get audit reports back and legislation changes. They're indicating really that we should have a bit of a review and a refresh on what we consider to be mandatory. So what I was going to suggest for the committee consideration is that we bring back a report to the next meeting, setting all of that out, and also with some recommendations on how we would take that forward and what a mandatory training would look like.
thank you, Leanne. I've looked at this report. For me, I'm in favour of looking at what is mandatory, what isn't, and mandatory, what we should know, what we don't have to. What I'm saying. I think this is a good step forward. I have no other comments on that. I've looked at the report myself now. Any comments from our committee? Yes, Phil first.
I welcome the report, particularly well the revision of mandatory training, but can we see some teeth put in it? In other words, if members don't attend the mandatory training,
Yes.
what's going to happen? And this we refer back to the group leaders.
Yes.
And see where we go from there. Because
Absolutely agree.
you know, we've had reports over the years. We found that, you know, the initial induction trainings are usually fairly well attended, you know, maybe 90%. And then after that, it all falls away. That's the only thing I have.
Well, I think first thing I was going to say has been touched on. I was going to say two things actually, because I was quite shocked actually with some of the participation rates, and you know, I mean, effective scrutiny, was it 10% of people? Yeah, I mean, that to be quite frank, for the vast majority of councillors, that is the most important thing they do is engage in scrutiny. Such things as you know, educational attainment. I think that should be an absolutely massive concern for all of us. Again, you know, we're talking about participation rates. What is it there? 40%. 40%. So, but I think the point's been made about reviewing. It's not quite the same point I know about what's compulsory, but I do think at some stage, while we're thinking about what's compulsory, we also need to be thinking about, you know, the participation rates and what we can do actually to improve those. And that probably brings me maybe on a little bit to my second point. That on I think it's on page 8 of this, it talks about sort of approaches to training. And it talks about learning activities, about training being engaging and interactive. It talks about things like scenarios as part of training. And to be quite frank, that I don't know if I'm being a bit blunt here, but actually, overwhelmingly, the training I've attended on the council is basically people reading PowerPoint slides. I mean, you know, with respect, I can sit and read a PowerPoint slide on my own without somebody sitting, you know, just reading them for me. And in fact, I don't really remember doing anything else on a training course other than sat down watching, you know, lots and lots of text on PowerPoints. And that's probably a little unfair, but because I know, for example, in the recent one we had on fly tipping, there was a lot of visual, you know, photographs for use and so forth. So perhaps, but overwhelmingly, the training does seem to be just, you know, watching PowerPoint slides. And to be quite frank, you know, training has moved on a lot since then. If any of you have been involved with training, and you know, I like to think I can speak a little bit of authority on it because I have done quite a bit of training in the past. But there are lots and lots of techniques and approaches that can be used to make it much more interactive and actually to make it much more effective, in my opinion. And even nowadays, if you're doing training online, you know, the packages like Teams now have the ability to do breakout rooms and all this kind of thing, where you can put a lot more variety into what you're doing. But anyway, that's
helpful feedback.
Yeah, that's great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Kate.
Just an observation, really. When I was first elected in 2012, Trevor was already in there, weren't you? Yeah. And yeah. But actually, sorry, Bill. But you had been before that. But I mean, actually, things are so vastly different. There was very little training delivered to us then.
Yes.
And what we did have was a very big pack, which I basically found nesting in my garage just behind me, which I think, being quite overwhelmed with that new role and the enormity of it, I can't say that I ever read it through from end to end. So actually, these training modules which you have had are such a substantial difference. And I really hope that we should see better decision making by our colleagues, more thorough understanding of the processes, by which we deliver services to our residents and how we support them through the difficult times which they've faced in all the years in between. Right? So thank you for that.
I think it's a good comment we made, Trevor.
Yeah, Leanne, you mentioned about some of the training sessions didn't have a good attendance. I won't say bad, but good attendance. So have we had any feedback of the reasons why? Because I know I haven't attended some of the training sessions because maybe I have a lot of commitments outside of council and outside bodies. So it's very difficult when the training sessions in. So can Democratic Services look at whether we can reschedule those to accommodate the councillors that were unable to attend? You know, I have 10 committees outside this, 2 school governors, 1 of the chair, and other within the community.
Yeah, I think we all face that issue. The training that I've attended, over and above, I've attended quite a few, I think now, over and above the compulsory ones, mandatory ones. I just think that I'm going away with information that I didn't have. I'm always thinking which one's coming best. I think the GDPR. What do I know about GDPR? God, it's a minefield. But one thing I've learned a couple of things from that. I find that useful. There are things from the fighting, I found that useful to understand. Everywhere I find useful. It's like, I want to see more done on safeguarding. The negative side of training, I was always also involved in, was, funny enough, the diversity training. And I didn't even remember that. The diversity training. I happened to be asked a comment, and I made a comment. I was held up before the head of law and standards because I thought training, and this is why a lot of us don't interact with training these days. We thought it was a protected space. There's the line.
So I think without going into detail on.
No, I know, but it should be a protected space for members. In other words, if they make a mistake, they should be able to make a mistake in a protected place. Even though I never made a mistake, it was actually factory correct and that was proven. But however, there should be an education of part of that because training is about education. We can't all be educated at the same rates. So but you're doing a great job. I know it sounds negative. I actually love the training that you're presenting. Some of it is, as it's been explained, okay, but you can't get everything right, can you? It's very hard. I mean, you're doing a balance. But one thing I think that's come from this committee is you're going in the right direction. And we support that direction. And Phil's right. We discussed this at the briefing, that we need to get the leaders and the whips and whoever's in charge of the political entities to ensure that they make sure their members turn up for training, to make sure that there is a consequence for not turning up. You know, I think, so we need more buy-in, and if that's altering the time of the training, although I find 5 o'clock suits me fine, but it might not suit other members as it's been explained.
Yeah, I think we've certainly seen overall much better attendance to being able to offer virtual training so people can log on without having to, try to do an office and do it that way. So that's been really helpful. We are trying to be mindful of when people are available. It is a bit of a balancing act because we can't repeat every single training. It's difficult enough to get them all plotted into the diary. But for key ones, which could be part of the proposals next time, like information management, we've tried to run 3 different sessions, 3 different times to try and give that maximum opportunity for people to attend. But certainly if there's any feedback that members have of, particular dates, times, anything that would be helpful to them, we'd be open to receiving that. But again, trying to make that balanced approach so we're trying to do the best of it.
I mean, I attended code of conduct training twice. I'm still getting it wrong. But the thing is now, I don't get it that wrong anymore than social media stuff. I don't get that wrong. Because anything I need, I refer to Mike. He had a load of standards. Well, and it's helpful. It's helpful just to know who to go to say, have a quick butchers at this before we get it out. Just because we don't deliberately set out to do things wrong. That's something that we don't deliberately set out to do. And as we're facing more scrutiny every day, we have to, I guess, up our game.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea, and officers to review training sessions, because obviously legislation changes, could change next week. So we need to be trained up. But yeah, I think it's a good idea, possibly look at those where there has been not a good attendance, whether it's because of the times or whether it's because of councillors people with it or not interested in it. Just get some sort of feedback. Why basically emails of councillors that didn't attend this, why they didn't. Is it because of time, because it didn't apply them? Apply didn't apply to anybody, basically. But obviously other councillors say it might not belong in finance.
I'll send it first then, Kate.
Just to echo what you just said, really, yes, it's very important that we get the feedback on the reasons why councillors haven't attended these meetings. And that's the one point. The other one is that would it be possible, like once if you've done the training and councillors would be able to attend that course, that those training the training report is put online, but then they can be acknowledged for doing that training report in their own time, not exactly attending the meeting, but some sort of, so they know that they've been in, they subscribed, they could do it on a Saturday morning, whatever's their choice.
Yeah, I think the slides are issued, but the challenge is around the recording.
Yes.
It's something that we're looking at, for example, code of conduct, for an example of launching that as a online course for next year, because then it's ready for when councillors want to refresh and they can go to it any time. But there is that set way of having a formal recording. We do send on a quarterly basis the attendance figures through to the group leaders. It would be really challenging to be able to report what people have or have not done at home. So I think having the learning suite of modules that you handed would help.
With where I work, my day job is that we have online training and we just log on and the course that we've been on shows that we've hit 100% for the year, etc. and move on.
Yeah, absolutely. So some of those courses are already available online. So I think that's what we could do, is send out a refresher to members about what's available, how to log
Online,
in.
that's a good idea.
So the safeguarding, information
Yeah.
management, they're already on there. But I think we could probably add to it from a member specific point of view with some additional modules.
I agree with that in principle. The code of consular training, actually, I'm aware of members who did go in and watch that session, but they went and watched it afterwards and gave me feedback to the effect that they'd done it. So I quite agree that should be.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, I appreciate that they give you feedback and send it to me, but if you've got something.
That's what I'm saying. They should get the credit for having done that.
That's correct, and it shows the report.
Can I take Kate next and then if
No, I just want to make a quick point. I think the chair said something very interesting there. And I've done a lot of training courses, particularly when I was working in my former full-time job. And it was always something which was highlighted at the beginning of the course, that it was effectively Chatham House rules. What was said in that, because very often training can, I see, a lot about domestic abuse and violence on this. There will be issues there that affect people that might upset them, they might want to talk about or not talk about. So it's always been understood that anything that's said in that room or shared with other people will be there for everybody's learning or information, or sometimes just to offload. And that it isn't something which it should be for one moment considered proper to report. And maybe even something like, if anybody felt the urge to report another member, they should be talked to about that. With the full understanding of the implications of that, that actually that is breaching confidence.
We could consider that perhaps in the next paper that we bring back, provide some guidance.
Thank you. I'm not sure that, sorry, as the monitoring officer, I'm not sure that there are no circumstances whatsoever in which a member could have breached.
Well,
the
child protection,
by way,
clearly.
by way of
Yeah.
something that they say. in a
We
training
all
session.
understand the child protection one, but it is something if you do, also with outside organisations, as I did with the voluntary sector, that would always be mentioned at the beginning of every session.
But we're talking
Child protection is the one we all have a legal responsibility. We can't ignore that one.
purposes, but yeah.
Anyway, here we go. And sorry, Trevor, for some
Councillors that do training, am I right in thinking it goes on the councillor's profile online?
We record all attendance. It's a function of democratic services, and then that update is issued to the leaders on a quarterly basis.
So if I attended the fly tipping, that go on my councillor's profile, council flat.
It's not publicly available, but we record it.
Right. I thought it. Sorry.
I wouldn't want to see these things very publicly available. I'd rather people want to attend.
Oh, yeah.
Because really, we have a responsibility. I mean, there's only so much knowledge you can retain, mind. Only so much. And this is why we have officers who, if we have questions and we don't know the answers to, we come. But so a lot of the training has been fascinating. Kate, you're sorted. Sorry, Phil.
One thing I might like you to consider is quantifiable training, because we go on training courses and we've all done it. We go on a training course, end of next week, 50% of it.
Yeah.
In 6 months' time, well, I think it's on a training course, because we don't actually practice what we learned on the course. No criticism of your courses, it's the same the world over. I went to a full day's training on global warming last week. It was disappointing the number of people over there, and I was the only councillor there, but they did send us some exam questions at the end of it, which, you sat up and thought about it. And of course, we submitted them online, so you've got those answers there for the future. And if, they said there was something like a 10% failure rate. So hopefully I wasn't in the 10%, but I wouldn't have thought so. And I wouldn't have thought so. You never know. But I would appreciate, as I say, quantifiable training. So there's something that forces people who sat through a training course, and maybe they didn't want to go there, but they've gone, but they were a bit bored and they were playing with their laptop or whatever they were doing, that they've actually got to pay attention. And I know we should say we trust our colleagues. It was something I brought up when I was first elected, and that was the answer I got back. We trust our colleagues. So obviously,
I think it's always the trust. I think it's right to have trust in any society or any organisation. Although it is widely recommended that you only pay attention. Your attention span is 20 minutes. After that, you're losing it. So maybe short, sharp is to gain full attention. I mean, the NHS do it. Other stuff is online there. Training module you pop on. It don't take long, and
if I remember right, the SRS did some of that a couple of years ago when the GDPR regulations came in, and they were really short presentations.
Yeah.
So at the end of it, we had to pass
2 hours. I think we had the flight. It was 2 hours. My God, what in the world to live?
There were a lot of questions.
It was such an interactive session. That was a great session. For 2 hours. So to expect us to remember some of the fantastic questions and even better answers of the 2 hours, you've got no chance. 20 minutes. And you're going down there.
You'll consider some exams and tests. I think it's easy for the online e-learning modules.
Yeah.
And I know that in a Welsh language session recently, they made some really good use of technology where there was a quiz at the end. So yeah, we can certainly give some thought to expand on that.
Okay. Well, I'm glad this is for noting.
It is for noting, and the discussion has been really helpful. I'll build some of what we've talked about in
It's
the next
fantastic.
paper.
Thank you. So thanks for that. Okay, the next item on the agenda is the Independent Remuneration Panel Wales Draft Annual Report. That is for noting. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Just to flag, Chair, that the consultation that happens every year is open until the 29th of November, so you can go online if there's
Yeah.
anything that you wish to feedback directly to the panel. And just to note as well, this is the last annual report of the panel. So we'll get the final report in February, which will be brought back to the committee before it's taken through to council. But the duties of the remuneration panel will be handed over to the Democracy and Boundary Commission currently. So that handover will take place in April 2025. Their annual report also sets out some of the topics that panel is going to look at initially. So just wanted to bring that to your attention.
Thank you. And item 7, forward work programme, will take us through that.
Can I ask a question and everybody answers it? The independent remuneration panel, that's been disbanded altogether. They're not getting another limit or anything.
Yeah, that will cease to exist in that form, but to set in the remuneration for public bodies, all that will be handed over to the DBCC.
Okay.
So, sorry.
Forward work programme,
Yeah.
we're on that.
So we missed in February's meeting, so apologies for that. We'll add that one in. I think largely that will be the next report from the IRP, so the final report following their consultation. We'll also bring back the report on the members training, including proposals for mandatory certification for our elected members. And we'd also look to bring back, did we say earlier too, that we should bring back the terms of reference for the task and finish group constitution to be finalised.
Yes. That will come back. Okay, and the date of the next meeting is the 20th of February 2025. We're moving into Christmas now. Can you believe me? Christmas, believe me. I know it seems to get earlier and earlier. I don't know. But, there we are. And
Sorry, Chair, I was going to ask regards to the date of the next meeting. It might be helpful to move it slightly back by say a week, only because we would definitely catch the IRP report then.
back and forward.
But it's later in February.
Later in February.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, okay.
if the committee would be happy for it to.
Right now, it's studies are not, you know. Okay.
Still on Thursday.
Still on a Thursday, I should imagine it's going to be okay.
But potentially it may come out on the 28th, Chair, so could we consider the 6th of March?
Yeah, I think we could get that out quick.
Sorry, I think we got it. Yeah, we've got an overview. Scrutiny because we've moved them from Fridays to
Thursdays, okay.
Do we have to? Oh, yeah, we shut on Friday. Yeah. Oh, God. See, that's the problem. We shut on Fridays. I don't know, maybe.
I'm going to say.
I'll tell you off.
I didn't approve it.
No, we shut on Friday. I was going to say it doesn't have to be a Thursday. but we're not planning on Wednesday, and, you know, I'm not planning.
Fridays are problematic.
The
Um,
committee would be happy to do so. We could go ahead with the original date and I could share the final IRP report by email.
you could do that, or we could, do we, I mean,
Why can we just have one? Yeah.
how about the Tuesday? What did you have, what about the Tuesday?
Let me have a look at the calendar.
Yeah,
Let's
okay.
Make a proposal and
Yeah.
we can do
We'll
this
send
by
some dates
email.
out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Please, could I give my apologies for leaving now, Chair?
You could certainly go. Thank you for
Thank
all your contributions this
very
morning. It was very helpful. Merry Christmas to you anyway.
Thanks very much, and to you as
Yeah.
well, and to everybody here.
Hopefully we'll meet up before
I'm
that.
sure you'll see you.
Yeah.
A committee party, is there? Yeah.
Oh, yeah, but no, you're lucky.
It's for the council meeting next Tuesday.
Oh, but yeah. Right, okay, we've done the forward work programme now. Nothing else to say except thank you for attending. Thank you for those online. Merry Christmas, take care, and thank you for your participation this morning. Bye, guys.